Hey everyone, it's Kabir here. So in last session we saw some properties of CSS. So in today's session we are going to understand about some HTML. So we are going to come back to the HTML. Just few concepts are remaining HTML. So we will be finishing it. Then again we are going to learn some more concepts in CSS as well. So in this session we are going to understand about the forms. So for that I'm going to create a file known as forms. So it would be 11 underscore forms dot html. Okay, now what are the forms? Forms are nothing but a kind of input where a client is going to enter some data, and as a programmer we have to take that data and we have to submit that data to the server. So before submitting the data to server, first of all we have to validate the data that the client or a user has entered proper data or not. That's the first thing. So this validations, how to take the data, that all the things we are going to see in the JavaScript. Whereas in HTML, we are going to create the forms. Forms like we can create a login form. Now to create a login form, we require some set of HTML tags, right? We are going to understand that form tags. Apart from that, if you want to create a registration page, you can create a registration page using the form tags. In the same way, if you want to create any online application form, so that everything is going to be created using the these form tags. So let us understand what are the form tags. Now, to create a form tag, already HTML gives a tag known as form. Okay, this is the one thing you have to remember. We have a tag called form. Apart from that form tag, we have some tags like input, select, options, all that. Now let us understand it step by step. Now, so what I want to do, I want to create one skeleton of our HTML document. So doc tab. So we have created a skeleton. So let me remove this metadata tags. Okay, fine. Now here I'm gonna say forms. Okay, fine. Now we have a tag called label. I hope everybody is familiar with the label. So here I'm giving something like username. Now it is going to just print a label, just username in your browser. So let's see how it is going to print. So just right click and go to your default browser. Now you are able to see a label here, right? It's a username. It's just kind of a label tag. Now I want one input box here. So for that, to create an input box, we have a tag called input. So input, now this input tag is a self-closing tag. So this is called a self-closing tag. Now this tag will have some set of attributes. So the first attribute is called type, means this type is going to give an instruction to your browser which kind of or which type of this text box should be, whether it's an email text box or password or normal text. So I'm going to say I want normal text. So I'm gonna save it. So comes to your browser, refresh it. Let me comes here. Let me see anything mistake. Yeah, we did some mistake. Okay, fine. Now if you save and comes to your browser and it going to refresh it, now you are able to see some kind of text. So let's do something. I want to create one div. So let's give some styling to this as well. So if I want to give the styling, we have to come to the head tag and we have to write a style. Okay, fine. In this style, I want to give some stylings to this div. So the width should be something like 300 pixel. Okay. Height should be something like 50 pixel. Some box shadow. Box shadow should be 0, some 20 pixel and black. Let me do. And apart from that, give me something like padding should be something like 15 pixel. Okay, fine. Now I'm gonna save it and let comes to our okay, let me give background color as well. So background should be something like linear gradient, and it is going to take some degree. I'm taking 45 degree. Apart from that, I want a pink color, comma, orange red. Okay, fine. Now I'm gonna save it. Come here and just refresh. Now you are able to see a div. Right now this div I want it to be in the middle, so for that we have a property called margin and just give the value as a auto. So save it and comes to your browser, refresh. Now yeah, now it is coming in the middle. Now what I want to do is, right, so just keep this particular things label and input inside that div. Save it. Yes, now you are able to see something like username and some text box. Now this particular thing is nothing but your input tag. This is coming because of input. Now you can enter some text here, right? And this is your label. Now in the same way, I want to create one more div. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, div. Okay, fine. Now if I save it and come here and refresh, now you are able to see one more div. Now I want some gap between this div, right? So I'm going to give one property called margin bottom. Margin bottom should be something like 20 pixel. Let's see how it is going to look like. Yeah, now we got something like. Now here we saw username. In the same way, we have one more type called password. Now let's see. Let me copy these two things and let me paste here. Now just we are going to change the value of a type attribute. So instead of text, now I want to give it has a password. And instead of username, I'm gonna say something like password. Okay, just I'm gonna click and save it. Apart from that, come to your browser and refresh it. Now you are able to see some kind of password, right? Now what is the difference between this text and this password? Okay, that thing you need to know. In text, whenever I'm typing something, you are able to type it, you are able to see what text you are typing, right? In the same way, if in the password, if I'm typing something, you are able to say everything comes as a dot. Just because in real time, whenever we enter some password in some forms, right, it come in the same structure, and you're able to see some icon here, right? If you click on this, it is visible, and if you don't click it, it is going to be in your dot format. So this is coming because of only one attribute, that is type equals to password. If you go type equals to text, then the text is visible. If type equals to password, then it is not visible. This is the one thing you guys have to understand, right? Now apart from that, let's write some more stylings. Like I want to be text align should be center, and font size, let me increase the font size to some 20 pixel. Let me see how it is going to look if we enter the 20 pixel some kind of thing. Yeah, now it is looking a little bit better, right? Fine. Now let me give something like font weight as well, and let me make it as a bold. So every styling depends upon your requirement. So this is what, okay, you have to understand each requirement and you have to write the code. This is how a developer is going to think. It might be HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. You have to divide that requirement into small parts and just concentrate on each small part and just try to club it. That's how you are going to do coding. And if you follow this strategy, you don't need to mug up the codings, right? No need to mug up. You just have to understand the concept. Even if you forgot the syntax, right, you have the Google, you can go and you can see the syntax. Like for example, I forgot the input type. Like I know that there is some attribute known as something, I forgot the name type, but I know there is attribute called something where if I give the text, it will come text. If I give the password, it will come password. Like you are not able to remember the type word, right? So there is no problem, right? Because no one will expect that you have to remember everything, but basic things you guys have to remember. If you forgot something, you have to go to the Google and you have to see the syntax, because there are so many things, right? How many technologies you have. Now you are going to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, React. Apart from that, if you learn server side programming like Java, Python, or something like Microsoft technologies like C Sharp, ASP.NET, MVC. Then if you learn .NET, then some cloud technology, some DevOps code technologies. In DevOps, DevOps is not a technology, it's a methodology. So in DevOps, you have set of tools, like you have to at least know some 5 to 6 tools, like you have the Docker, you have the Git, right? You have Terraform, you have Kubernetes, you have so many things, right? So you have to understand everything step by step. Don't try to attack everything at a same point at a time. Just go step by step, just learn one part. Then once you are good in one part, then just concentrate on second part. Like this you have to go, right? So that's the thing you guys have to remember. So now we have done this, right? Now we have one more. Let's see, we have so many. So let's see step by step everything. So this time I'm gonna give password equals to type equals to something like date, and I'm gonna say you enter date, something like that. Okay, now we have one more type called date, and I'm going to refresh it. Now you are able to see date, and if you click on this particular thing, you can select some kind of date, right? So this is because only one attribute type equals to date. In the same way, we have many more things. You have to understand each and everything. I have something like color. So let me take it as a color, and instead of password, let me change this to color. Okay, something like enter color or select color. Save it, comes to your browser and just refresh it. Now you are able to color. If you click it, now you can select some kind of color here, right? This is because of the type color, right? So in the same way, we have something called checkbox. Now if you want to create a checkbox, then you have the type equals to checkbox, and here I'm going to enter something like HTML. So I'm going to copy this thing. I want one more thing here, and here this time I'm going to say something like React. Save it, comes to your browser, refresh. Now you are able to see something like HTML, you can check, and you have the React, something like the check. In the same way, we have a radio button as well, so we can create a radio as well. So I'm going to copy this thing, paste, and here I will be saying something like male, and here let me say it as a female. Okay, now instead of type equals to checkbox, here I'm going to give radio, and here also we have a radio. Save it and come here and just refresh it. Now you are able to see radio buttons as well, so you can check if you're male, you can check female. But now the problem is here both the buttons are able to check, but we don't want something like that. We want any one button should be checked. So that is the difference between your checkbox and your radio button. So for that, what you have to do, you have to add one more attribute called name. So, and that name should be same for both the radio buttons. So I'm going to give something like gender, right? Space. And here also I have to add the attribute called name, gender. Okay, fine. Just remember guys, the name should be same. Okay, if you give the name same, then it will be considered as a one group, and in one group you can select only one radio button. That's the rule you guys have to understand. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh it. Now just check. If I check male, it's a male. If I'm gonna click on the female, now it is unchecked, right? So this is coming because of the name attribute, and the name should be same. If you are going to give some different name, then both the things are going to select. So that thing you guys have to understand. Okay, now this is all about your radio button. Now apart from this, you have so many. Let me see one more, like let's try to copy something from here. Okay, fine. So now what I'm gonna do, Instead of select color, I'm gonna give something like we have type, we have phone number as well, like it would be number, enter number. Now you want to create a text box which could take only numbers, no alphabets, right? So for that you have to give type equals to number. Now just save it and comes to your browser, refresh. Now you should see something like enter number. Now you see here you're getting something like, means you can enter only number. If I'm trying to enter some other alphabets, it's not taking that because we give type equals to number. This one more thing you guys have to understand. Now just think, I want to create a drop down button. So for that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take one more div. Now in this, I'm gonna say label equals to something like drop down. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna write a tag called select. So we have a select tag. In this select tag we have to give a options, some options we have to give, and I'm giving something like React. Okay, in the same way, one more thing we have to give something like, we can give the value attribute. So this attribute you are going to not understand in JavaScript why this value required. Okay, as of now just consider it should be Angular, something like that. Let me copy this too and paste. Now here I'm going to say something like Spring Boot, and one more thing like AWS. Okay, now comes to your browser and just refresh it. Now you are able to see. Now apart from that, what I'm going to do, the first option I want to give the value something like option select. Okay, save it. Now comes to your browser. Now you are able to see some kind of drop down button, right? Now if you want to select something, just click here. Now you can select anything. If you want to select AWS, the AWS is selected. If you want to select something like Angular, you can select Angular. If you want to select something like React, you can React. By default, the first value will come. So we give the word select. So it looks like select. Okay, fine. Now this is called your drop down button, right? Now we have some more thing, like if you want to create a button, right? If you want to create button, so for that we have div, and this time I'm gonna say input type equals to button. Okay, and the value should be something like login. Just save it, comes to your browser and refresh it. Now you are able to see a button like it. You can create any kind of button, right? Apart from this, we have one more tag called button. We have the button tag as well. Now here you can say something like register. Now it will create one more button. Refresh it. Now you are able to see login and register. Now this is, so let me give something like, so that we can see something down. So I'm gonna say body and bottom, margin bottom, no, not margin bottom, I wanna say something like height. Height should be something like 9000 pixel. So just refresh it. Now we got something like this. Okay, now this is a login and this is the register. So we have created a use this button using a button tag. We have created this button using an input tag and the type equals to button. In the same way, we have some default buttons, right? We can give a value like instead of button type equals to button, we can give one more like reset and one more is like submit. So you are going to understand what is the meaning of reset and submit as well. So we will be creating a login form. There I will be explaining type equals to submit, type equals to reset. Okay, now reset, whenever you are going to create a reset button, it is going to just reset your text box. And submit type is going to, like if you enter some data in your registration form, right? Now whenever you are going to click that button, that particular data which is in your text box which you have entered, that data is going to be submitted to the your server. Okay, so that we will be seeing in the JavaScript. So here in HTML and CSS, just we need only designing, we cannot do any functionality here, right? So here just we are going to design a login page, but to that login page, if you want to give some functionality, then that functionality you have to give using JavaScript. So that we will be seeing there. So apart from there, this we have one more called data list. So let me show you. So I'm gonna take a div. Now here I want to create one data list, right? So we have a tag called data list. Now this data list is going to take same like option. So let me copy that options. I'm gonna copy this options from here. Okay. Now this data list will have one name equals to something like some, I'm gonna give some list one. Now I want to create, now if you create a data list means you are creating one data list and that list is going to contain these values. Now I want to create one input. Now here we have one attribute called list, and list equals to, we have to give the name. What is the name of list? So this is list one. So just give list one, means in this input box we are able to see this kind of this list. So I'm gonna save it, come here, refresh. Now just see, I think we have to do something. So I'm gonna write here like label, something like label select some list. Okay, now this is the input and this is a list. I think it would be id or for something is there. Let me check whether it works or not. So I'm going to refresh it. Yeah, select list. Now we are not getting some list, right? So if you forget something like this, what you have to do, you have to go to the MDN. Now this is the official document for your HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Just go to your HTML. If you forget some syntax, like now I forgot some syntax about this one, and go to your HTML elements. Now once you, now in this HTML element, you are able to see all the tags that are present in HTML in the alphabetical order. Now you are able to see something like here like delete now. So it means this particular tags are going to deprecate. You should, they recommend you not to use this tags because in the future versions they might remove this tag, they will remove. Okay, so don't go for the tags which have this kind of symbol. Now we want something like data list, right? So come to data list. Now this is a data list, just click here. Once you click here, now you are able to see some kind of example. Now we have created the data list, we gave here name, but it should be id, and input list equals to, this should be the id. So we have did something right same now. So let me come here. So it should be id. Now if I save it, come here and refresh, now you are able to see this kind of symbol. Now you can select anything. So this is same like your drop down button, this is, but this is a new version. It is little bit clean and it is very convenient. So this is called your data list. Now come here to your, see now you have so many things, right? Now if you come to your input tag, so I'm gonna go back. Now if you come to your input types, now see you have so many types. You have button, you have checkbox, you have color, date, time. Now this is deprecated, okay, don't use this one. You have date time hyphen local, email, file, hidden, image, okay, month, number, radio, range. This is what I was telling about reset, and this is what I was telling about submit. So you have so many things. You can give some URL, means type equals to URL, which is going to expect some URL, something like that. So let me come here, let me give one more div, and this time let me say label tab, and here I want to say something like range, and input type equals to range. Now save it, comes to your browser, refresh it. Now you are able to see some kind of range as well. Now this is to create a range. In the same way, you have so many things. You can create URL, time, text, search box also you can create. You can create something like radio. We have some, we didn't see the range, right? We can see the range as well. We can create a file as well. So how to create a file? So how it is going to look like? So I'm gonna copy this, and here I'm gonna say something like file, and label should be something like choose the file. If you want to create a button, you can create a button here like button, and you can write something like submit. Now comes to your, okay, now you can, but it is not looking good because you have to write some stylings for that. So I'm gonna remove this button tag from here. Yes, now this is how you can choose. If you select, you can choose some kind of file here. So this is how we create a file. Now this is how we create so many things in our HTML using input tags. Apart from this, we have something more. If you want to check the list, then you have to come here and you have to check everything. Like you have range, reset, submit, tell. So whatever I have shown you, that's what we use maximum. So I have shown you that if you want to check more, just you come here and you have to check here. And we have one thing like a field set as well. If you want to understand about the field set, so come here to the HTML, just search for something like field set. Okay, now this thing is called field set, means if you want to group some few things, then we have to use the field set. In this field set, this particular thing is coming, this rectangle is coming because of a tag called legend, this one, and apart from these are the same. And you guys have to remember every input tag should be inside a form tag. Form tag will be a parent tag, right? In this, how we are going to use if you want to create something like table, right? So the root tag or a parent tag would be a table tag. In the same way for forms, the tag would be form. So you have to write this all the tags inside a form tag. That thing you guys have to remember, right? So let us see about this field tag. So I'm going to copy this, the paste here. Now here I'm going to say field set. So I have said the field set, everything should be inside a field set. So just here I'm going to say something like field set. Now, okay, fine, this is a field set. Now you want a legend kind, like this kind of thing, right? You want this kind of thing, so you are going to say legend. So for that you have to write like legend tag, and inside legend tag you can select any one language, something like this, right? Now we have to select any one language. So this time what I'm going to say, I'm going to remove, and here type should be radio because we want to select any one thing, and the value should be something like, here I want to give something like Hindi, In the same way, let me copy and say something like here, it would be Telugu, and here I'm gonna say something like Marathi. So we have to select any one kind of thing. So I'm gonna save it. So comes to your browser and just refresh it. Now you are able to see something like if you want to increase the height of this particular div, so what can you do? Only that div. So we have a attribute called style. Inside style, I'm gonna say height, make it equals to something like 400 pixel, not 400, make it like 100 pixel. Save it, comes to your browser, increase. Now you are able to increase the height as well. Now we have to increase width as well little bit. So let me increase one more width as well. So width equals to something like 300 pixel. We have by default 300. Yeah, let me make it as a 500. Now we have to save and come here. Now you are able to see Hindi, Telugu, Marathi. Now this is how you have to select any one. Now you are able to select the multiple things. So if you want it should be selected only one, then you have to give something attribute called name. Name equals to something like language. So lang name should be equal. It should be equal for all the three buttons. Lang name should be equals to lang. Okay. Now we are missing something here. Marathi input type radio name equals to language. Save it. Come here, just refresh it. Now you can select any one language. Now what is the use of this field set is nothing but it is going to just group this this all the things it is going to group in one thing. Now instead of your text you can give some background image also. So you have to give just the image in legend tag. So that how we can do many things, right? So you can change the color as well. So if I want to change the color, so what we have to do, we have to give an attribute. So here I'm going to say something like color white. Comes to your browser, refresh it. Now you are able to see the change of color as well. So this is how we have to do. We have to learn this all things, right? So we saw something. You have to go to your MDN and you have to see each and every tag. So MDN is the official document. Don't refer W3 School or tutorial point. As a fresher, you can refer it, but you have to be more depend upon MDN because MDN is going to contain all the things that you have in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So now HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is going to handle by this MDN website, and this website is developed by the Mozilla company. And you have the Mozilla Firefox, right, browser, and that browser is also developed by Mozilla company. So that thing you guys have to understand. So you have so many tags, you have to refer each and everything. Like you can select some technology, like you can select something like here CSS. Now you go to CSS reference and you can see many things about the CSS here, all the things. You have so many, see how many attributes we have, how many properties we have in CSS. Now what I told, if you want to learn CSS, it will take 1 year. If you want to learn every property, then it is going to take almost 1 year for you only to learn CSS. So you have so many things like depending upon the requirement, you have to refer and you have to know, okay, for this requirement, this would be better. So if you don't know, just come to your MDN and just refer it. Okay. This is all about today's session. So we have learned something like that. And apart from that, what I'm going to say, we have some more attributes like placeholder, something like autofocus. We have something like no validate. We have some attributes, so we will be seeing that in the next session. And in next session we shall be creating one online application form, okay, by using all these concepts, using your CSS, whatever you have learned, and this form tags. And these form tags are very important to create your login forms, all that. Okay, so let's do one thing today. Let's create one login form. So how can we create a login form? Is nothing but 12. I'm gonna say login dot html. Okay, now if you want to create a login form, you require one text box, you require one password, and you require two buttons, right? Some login button, and we will be creating one additional button called reset. So for that, first we have to create the skeleton. So doc tab. Fine. Now let me remove this unnecessary tags. Okay, we have removed it. Now if I want to create a login form, we have to use input, and it should be inside your input tag. So for before that, let me create a div. So I'm gonna create div. So let me take the styles from here. So it is going to save our time. So I'm gonna copy this one. So let me come here and let me add style tag. Inside style, let me add this one, and let me create one div there. So we have created, right? So this time let me increase it to 500, and let me increase it to something like 300. Let me see how it is going to look like. So right click, open in default. Now this is how it is going to look, but it is very big. So let me make it as 150, and this one also 150. Save it, comes to your browser. Now it is also something like this, right? So let me make it to 300 or 500, something like that. Okay, now we have created some kind of div. Now here I want to create a login form. So for that, what we have to do, let me comes to our body tag, and let me here write something like h2, and let me write login form. Okay, fine. Now here in, let me write everything in a form tag. So form tag should be here, right? Now to give proper alignment, I'm going to take a table. So I'm writing table. Okay, fine. Inside table, I'm taking one first row. In that row, in first TD, I want a label. So label tab. Now in this label, I want to say something like username. Okay, now save it, comes to your browser and refresh it. Now we got something like this, right? Username. Now I want one text box which should be in the same row but in another cell. So I'm gonna say td equals to input type equals to text, right? And this should be tag, right? So here it is going to end. So save it, come here and just refresh. Now we are able to see a username equals to one text box. In the same way, in second row, right, I want to create one more row. Oh. So I want to create one more row. In this row, I want to say it's not a username, it should be something like password. Okay, now this time the text should be password. Okay, fine. So let me refresh it. Now you are able to see something like pass username, and we need something like a password, right? Right. Now I want two buttons. The button should be here. The button should be something like reset, and one should be something like login. So let me come here. Let me take one more tr. So I'm going to take one more tr, and this time let me take input type equals to reset. Okay, and the value should be reset. Okay, I took the value equals to reset and the input type is reset. Now when I'm going to refresh, now this everything should be inside our td, right? So I'm going to create td. So I'm going to copy this one and just put it into the td, save it, and comes to your browser and just see how it is going to look like. Now it will not come in proper alignment because it is coming in one td, but I want in the second td. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to enter one more td which should be empty td, and this in reset button should come in the next td. So refresh. Now yes, now it is coming according to our requirement. Now I want login button. So that login button, login button should come here, right? So td, this time the same way, let me copy this thing and just keep here. And now instead of reset, I'm gonna say submit. Okay, fine. And here I want to say the value should be logged in. So whatever you are going to give the value, that is going to appear on the button. So whenever I'm going to refresh, now you are able to see the login is coming in another cell, right? I don't want it should come in another cell. So I'm going to remove this td from here, and I'm going to remove this td as well from here, and I'm going to remove this td and just I'm going to keep. Okay, means in this td, in second td, I kept two buttons. Save it. Now come here, refresh. Now you are able to see this is what. Now if you want to give more padding, right? So let me give padding to 10 pixel. Let me see how it is going to look. Okay, no, let me give more. So instead of 10, let me give something like 30. Save it, refresh. Now this is your login form, right? Now let me make this in the white color. So how can we do? So I'm going to write something like h2 on color should be white. Refresh. Now this is your login form, right? Now what I want to do, see, now just see the functionality. If I'm typing something here, I'm typing something here, and if I click on the reset, now everything as you went, right? This is nothing but your reset. If I click on login, this is going to submit to some URL. So what we have to do, right? We took one form tag, right? In this form tag, it is going to take some more attributes like method and action. This time I'm writing action, and I am telling what is the meaning of this action, and we have one more attribute called method that we are going to see in the JavaScript, right? Now as of now, you have to remember what is action. Now means the meaning of action is nothing but whenever I'm going to click on this login, okay, the type of this button is submit. So whenever I'm going to submit, it is going to submit this data to this particular page. So I have already created one page called submitted.html. So whenever I'm going to click on this page, now in this scenario, it is going to navigate to this particular page. Okay, but in real time, we are going to give the URL of your server side. Means whenever you are going to click on the login button, it is going to send your data to the server side. So which server it have to send, that depends upon the URL what you are mentioning here. So that thing you guys have to understand. So I'm going to refresh it. Okay, now this time something I have entered. Now whenever I'm going to click, now the form submitted successfully, right? Now this is the small functionality of your login page. How can you create a login page? So now just try to create your own login pages, guys.